If you want your business to be found online, SEO has got to be part of your plan. And one of the best places to start with SEO is your website. I've got a special guest with me today who is going to share what we need to know about SEO and our websites. Hi, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe marketing shouldn't be difficult. All you need is the right plan. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I am super excited to have with me Joey Donovan Guido from Kappa SEO Web Design, and he's also the author of A Holistic Guide to Online Marketing. Joey, welcome, and thanks for taking the time to be here with me.
Hey, Tim, thanks very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. I'm excited to dig into this. I know SEO is always a hot topic for a lot of people, and it can definitely feel like some of the stuff happening with SEO is a bit of black magic. So we'll try and dispel that a little bit today. But before we do that, I want to ask you some rapid fire questions. Help us get to know you a little bit better. You ready to jump in with both feet on this?
I'm ready.
Okay. So when you're not working, how do you like to spend your time?
Well, I like to spend my time. We've got two teenage boys, so we spend a lot of time together walking, playing video games, or with my wife. But when I'm doing kind of stuff on my own, I love using vintage pencils and notebooks. There are these notebooks called Field Notes. I'll show you one. Super geeky,
Okay.
super addictive. I've got like 300 of these notebooks.
And so what do you just do you journal in them, or what do you do?
Yeah, they're live. I've got one for business stuff and one where I'll dump anything from spiritual work to day in, day out stuff, journaling, what's on my mind, really just mind dumps. It's kind of what I call them.
I had no idea that there was such thing as vintage pencils. So I'm learning new things every day. What's your hidden talent?
My hidden talent, I would probably say, is understanding and kindness. And I say it's kind of hidden because I'm a native New Yorker, and as you can tell, I've kind of have a harsher kind of voice.
Yeah.
So when people get to know me, they're often kind of surprised. Wow, this guy really has a kind of an understanding point of view.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Well, you're breaking from the stereotype.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
The stereotype isn't necessarily true for most New Yorkers.
Of course.
But for some it is. Yeah.
What about advice? What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I would say I'm going to keep this one to business because it's what's come up for me when you ask the question. And that is something that a gentleman named Dieter Rams said. Dieter Rams was basically the art director of Braun, the people who make razors and stuff like that, for like 40 years. And one of his mottos is less, but better. Okay. Less, but better. And man, that can transcend into your life, into your website, into your marketing campaigns. I think you mentioned it earlier. Let's keep it simple, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's a fantastic piece of advice. Less, but better. What's one thing about you that surprises people?
One thing that surprises people is probably one thing. It's kind of goofy. I used to play baseball with Ace Frehley when I was a kid. Ace Frehley from Kiss. Okay. My dad was in a band called the Brats in the 70s, and they were super popular in New York. So I used to get to hang out with Ace Frehley. I got to meet the drummer from Blondie and all kinds of famous people.
Very cool. Now, did you have a mullet back then or no?
Well, no, I kind of had like Joey Ramone hair, which I wish I still had. But,
yeah, hey, we can only do so much to control that, right?
Yeah, I've let it go.
What does success mean to you?
Yeah, so success is very interesting because to me, overall in life, success is being able to be in consciousness more often. Okay. And when I say that, some people use the word mindfulness or being awake. But that kind of is the crux of it. And if I can be in that space where I'm in that more meditative space, everything else works much better, whether it's business, whether it's client work, relationships.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the crux of success. And then kind of secondary to that is, of course, helping enough people
Yeah.
so that they're supporting their families, they're helping their customers and clients. And kind of the residual of that is that I get to support my family.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. What about your happy place? Where is it?
My happy place is, well, my office, which is 450 square feet of bliss. It's like my little Buddhist temple. And one of the things that's so great about it is it just really puts me in a place where I can be, like we talked about a minute ago, be more meditative, more mindful, more in consciousness. So I can just be more useful and helpful throughout my day.
What qualities do you value in the people that you spend time with?
I would say the top quality I value is honesty. And also the drive to be better, not just to sit back and say, okay, I'm doing pretty good in school, or I'm doing pretty good with my business or my marriage. For me, it's always about what can we look at that kind of is a little weak that we can strengthen.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about what you're doing with Kappa SEO, your book, types of clients you're working with and helping.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting journey. Kappa SEO started in 2013, which is just been a blast for 8 years. And we started off as an SEO firm that, funnily enough, trained people how to do SEO. And quickly on, people started saying, hey, Joey, we understand what you're teaching us, but we just want you to do it. This is way too much work. And a couple months after that, my first client, Nancy, said, look, I need the SEO, but I need a new website. Can you do that as well? And I had a buddy who built my CappaSEO.com website, Jared, and he became my first contractor. So now, 8-ish years later, we've got 10 people on the team. We've got SEO people that I've trained. We've got 3 developers, photographers, artists. It's just amazing. And kind of the book evolved organically out of people coming to me over and over saying things like, I need help with my SEO. I need help with my social media. And my first thought is, let's take a step back and look at everything you're doing as a whole. Why do you need help with social media? Well, do you have a blog? No. Well, do you have fresh content to share? No. Well, what are you going to share on social? We're going to share some cool things we find elsewhere. It's like, no, then you're a mailman.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We want to deliver your content, your expertise to the people who are listening. More recently, after the book was written, I've started doing speaking and consulting and training as well.
Awesome. I love it. I think you and I share a lot of the same thoughts on marketing, and definitely taking a holistic approach and looking at all the pieces as they fit together is really, really important. You can't do, if you do marketing piece by piece, it's just not, doesn't end up working very well. So
no.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to learning from you as we dig into some of this SEO stuff today. I think the easiest place for us to start as we talk about SEO is, first, let's make sure we're on the same page. What is it, and how does it actually help businesses grow?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And we could talk for 5 hours about it, but I won't do that to anybody. So the way I like to describe it is SEO is a methodology that gets you found on Google. That's like the generalized, anybody can understand terminology. And that's kind of how we market it. It's, get found on Google, right? But what does that mean? How does it work? So kind of behind what some people will call a curtain, but I don't like that idea. I like when people understand what's going on in the background. SEO essentially is a methodology you implement into your website. There are 6 major areas that you want to optimize on your site. And when they're done correctly, they help people find you. So when they do a query like, in my case, SEO Madison WI, right? We have a lot of localized, statewide, tri-statewide work. Those search terms that people are actually searching for are naturally on my website in 6 key areas. And so when Google goes to crawl and say, let me give this query a good result, I come up typically toward the top, if not at the top of page 1. And then, of course, people will see me and click on my website and visit.
I think what a lot of people don't think about with SEO is all Google wants to do is provide the user a solid experience. They are serving the sites on page 1 that they believe are most relevant and going to be most helpful for the user based on that search query, right?
Yep, they are typically. There are people who I see play the system, and sometimes they will wind up on page 1 for a week, sometimes for 6 months. Eventually, they start to disappear.
Yeah.
But really, when you're doing the SEO, whether you're doing it yourself or hiring a firm to do it, you want to do what's called white hat SEO. You don't want to play any games because it will eventually come back to bite you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is a really, really important thing. Frankly, if that's the only thing somebody pulls out from this conversation, it's well worth the time, because Google, I mean, you see this much more than I do, but man, they've gotten so sophisticated from where they initially started. Yeah. You might trick them for a short period of time, but they're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
So it's just not worth it.
It's not worth it. And the nice thing is there are legitimate ways, and we've been practicing them for years, tested, proven ways that don't, quote unquote, go out of style.
Yeah.
It's interesting because in one way, people are always saying SEO is always changing. And in a way it is. But what I found is the way we've always done SEO, and again, this is through trial and error, testing things, typically on my own website to see if they work or not. Things that tend to work that are in the vein of a better user experience.
Yeah.
Google doesn't start to say, nah, we don't want that anymore. Right.
Yeah.
They might change the rules a little bit. They might add some more contingencies, so to speak, that they want you to follow, like however many years ago, like Mobilegeddon, right? You have to be mobile friendly.
Yeah.
Well, we were building websites that were mobile friendly before that because it just made sense.
Yeah.
Right. So it's almost like Google was kind of trailing us a little bit. Not that we know everything, but it's just about really putting the user experience front and center.
Yeah. So that's a good segue into some of these tips. What are the top sustainable ways that we can implement SEO into our website? You had mentioned 6 elements, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's jump through those.
Let's do that. And then what's really great about these elements is that you do it once, you do it right, and you leave it alone. So if you come across an SEO expert or a web design firm, there are certain instances where, like retainer business, where you're paying someone to do work for you on a monthly basis, make complete sense and they're totally valid. For instance, if they're writing blog posts for you, if they're working on what's called like cornerstone content for your website, updating your site when you've got a new product or getting rid of a product, things like that, totally legit. But if somebody says to you, hey, Tim, what we're going to do is we're going to freshen up your content on your homepage and your sub pages on a monthly basis. We're going to change your keywords. That's an indication where you want to say, hey, thanks very much. Wave goodbye, turn around and run.
Yeah.
And I will address this more with you later, but I want to stick to your question right now. The top sustainable ways to optimize a website. Okay. This is all in the book, by the way, in more detail. Okay. The first thing is first you want to make a really good, solid keyword report before you do anything. So that's what we do for our clients. But if you don't have the capacity to do that, what I suggest is doing what I call common sense SEO. Talk to your team members, talk to your clients, and you can even just do some general research. Type in some keywords, see what comes up. Okay. If your competitors are coming up, or if people who do what you do, maybe they're not your competitors, maybe they're in a different state and you're a local business, just kind of start to make a laundry list of all these keywords, right? Starting with anything is better than just kind of guessing.
So keywords that are a list of keywords that are relevant for your particular business.
Right, relevant to your business and your niche.
Okay.
And really, if you have a product or a services-based business, you're going to want those keywords to lead people to services or product-based results.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that if you put in a result, like if you search for something like blogging, right? We blog for clients, but blogging is not a good keyword because if you search that, what comes up in search results is how to blog, videos and blog posts about how to blog.
Yes. So that's a really good point. When you're looking at your keywords, look at what's showing up in search results. If it's more informational, right, and you're trying to use those keywords to drive people to a product or a service page, that's probably not the right keyword. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
If you're seeing it's that kind of informational Wikipedia video / blog centric type of results, that's okay. If it has high traffic and lower volume, lower traffic, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking backward here. Let me start over. If it has higher traffic or some kind of teeth as far as traffic, how many people search for it, and lower competition, it might be a good keyword to use on your blog. Or on your podcast or on your video series that you're going to transcribe. And I apologize, I'm kind of going on tangents before I answer the question you asked me.
No, that's okay. So we got keywords.
You want to get those keywords in place. And once we have them in place, the first thing we want to optimize on every web page, on every blog post is going to be your title tag. And that sits right at the top of your page in a little gray bar. Most people don't even notice it, but Google does. Optimize that title tag. And a good tip for that is keep it to 70 characters or less and lead with your most powerful keyword phrase for that page.
Got it.
Okay. The next thing you want to do is you're going to want to optimize all of your headlines. Okay. So your top headline, which is what we call your H1 headline, as well as secondary headlines like your H2 or H3 and so on. So those are two areas there, your H1 headline and your secondary headlines.
Do you recommend only one H1 header per page?
Yes, that is an excellent question. More than one H1 is actually bad for SEO.
I know there's varying schools of thought on that. I have always leaned towards just one H1 header on per page.
I've found through testing and also through research, one is what you want to shoot for. More than one is like saying, hey, Tim, look at that. And then the user doesn't know what to look at. Potentially, if they're close together. But Google is seeing those in the same level of hierarchy, top importance. And then Google's going to scratch their head and say, well, what am I supposed to look at here? And it can ding your SEO.
Got it. So we've got title tags. We have headlines or header tags. You got headlines. And then probably what I always find is the lowest hanging fruit that most SEO and web design firms don't do is to optimize your image and your alt image names. Got it.
Every single image, logos, if you've got Facebook logos there, you're a company logo. Every image, even your people on the about page can be optimized. Every single alt image name can be optimized. We just did a photographer and he must have had 300 images on his website.
And none of them were optimized.
Well, they are now, but they weren't before. And I said to him, if all we did was optimize your images, you would be way ahead of your competition.
So with images, it's the file name and the alt text. And do you, so you're trying, one, they need to be descriptive of what it is, right? But are you trying to put the same keyword in the image name and the alt text, or do you have an example of how you might do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, to your point, you want it to be somewhat descriptive. And if that amount of descriptiveness is going to also depend on what niche of business you're in. We do a lot of work with like mental health and the healthcare industry, and those have to follow certain standards where you'll have more image descriptors or product descriptors in the image name that might not necessarily be a good keyword.
Okay.
But we have to follow protocol so nobody gets in trouble. Right. So really, like, let's take my business as an example, Cuppa SEO web design. Something like, let's say it's my little coffee cup logo. It might say something like Cuppa SEO web design, Madison WI. So what it's got in there, it's got the brand name, which in my case has keywords in it. And also what's really important, especially if you're a regionalized business, whether you're in a city, a county, a state, or want to hit a tri-state area, really integrating the localization, like Madison, WI, New York, Chicago, Illinois, integrating that into your keyword research and also into your optimization process.
So would you use that same image title as the alt text, or is that different?
Yeah, well, what we'll typically do is we want that image name, if someone sees it, which most people don't, but if they did see it and were to read it, it would kind of make sense like an incomplete sentence, right? So your image name, every single word is separated by a dash.
Yeah.
Not an underscore, not a space. That puts gobbledygook in the code and hurts the SEO.
Okay,
put a
so
dash, nice and clean. So your image name's got the, Cuppa dash SEO dash Madison dash blah, blah, blah. Your alt image name, we take that same image name and we just take the dashes out and we put spaces.
Okay.
So, and what happens is that the reason why an alt image name was originally put in there, and I'm sure you know this, was for usability. So if somebody had some kind of a handicap, let's say they had vision issues in their computer, when they hover over an image, it speaks what the alt image name is, the alt text. So it's got to make sense. But the thing is, Google looks at it too for SEO value.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah. People don't realize that your images may show up in the search results. When we search, right, you've got the search results, but then you also have images.
Right.
And if you click on that, right, so it shows up all there.
Yep.
So we've got title tags, header tags, image name, and alt text.
Yep.
What's next?
What's next is your on-page copy or content. And this is something that's interesting because we don't want to stuff it with keywords. We want to look at the content that we're writing or that's already written, if it's an existing website, and just look at our keywords from our keyword report. And of course, we're going to have a plan in place. These are the best keywords we want to use. When we create them in a good, better, best format. So everybody knows what to use. And if you've got 10 products, we've got it broken out by product category. So if you're selling, let's say it's toiletries and you've got toothbrushes, toothpaste, you might also have maybe some women's and some men's care, skin care. It's all broken out. So for which page, here's what I want to use. But in the content, you want to just read it and think about if you might say something like this skincare product will help moisturize, right? And this is kind of a silly, easy example. But what if it's an organic skincare product? We want to say that. What if it's, no GMO kind of thing? I know that's more like when it comes to food, but you get the idea. If we found that something that's a little bit of a longer phrase, like organic, no artificial ingredients, if they are part of something people are searching for, then we want to include that.
Okay.
So
any idea, like how much, is there a minimum amount of copy that we want per page?
Not necessarily. It's really going to depend on a case-by-case basis. So, if you've got a page that's got one paragraph of copy and no imagery, that page is going to be pretty light and you're probably going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Especially if all your pages are like that. It's a great question. So really, if it's a gallery page, right? You might not have any copy at all. You might have one sentence, but you've got 24 images on that page, plus your logo, plus a nice hero image at the top of the page. You're going to be okay. But let's say it's more of a content-driven page. The thing I always like to suggest to business owners and whoever's doing the writing is, first and foremost, write the content to your audience. What is it they need? What is it they're looking for? I've got 3 what I call magic questions. What does it do? What is it? What does it do? How does it help me? Okay. Right? We really want to make the copy on the page customer-facing, benefit-driven, problem-solving. That's the number one goal. Yes. And that's kind of tailor it to how long it's going to be. That's going to dictate how long it's going to be.
Got it.
Some pages, like we worked for years with a client called Widen. They do software as a service. We would have cornerstone pages that were 3,000 words, and they needed to be.
Yeah.
We worked with a lot of local dental offices, and their pages would be like 500.
Yeah.
And that's what it needed to be. Those customers didn't want to sit there and trudge through 3,000 words.
Yeah.
But once you've got your copy, I would say like generally I'm looking for somewhere around 500 words on a content-driven page.
Yeah.
That'll give you enough teeth, along with your title tag, your your image namings and your headlines, that Google will say, oh, they're talking about SEO and web design and user experience. Oh, they're based in Madison, Wisconsin, right?
Got it. So what's next after on-page copy?
So after on-page copy, we've got something that's kind of not as popular as it used to be, but it's text links. So let's say at the bottom of your page, you say, contact us for more information. And the contact us part is a text link.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. That'll bring people where they want to go. The user experience is clear, right? Contact us for help. But there's no SEO in that text links. And text links have a little bit more SEO juice than the content on the page itself. So instead of just saying contact us, it could be something as simple as contact Cuppa SEO web design, in my case, right?
Got it.
In your case, it might say something like, contact us about marketing consulting.
Right.
Or something like that, that is a good keyword for what you do, putting it right into that text link. And that elevates it a bit.
So we're looking to use those links. We want those to be descriptive.
Right. We want them to be descriptive. It doesn't have to get crazy. It shouldn't be 10 words.
Yeah.
There's always an exception, but usually a 10-word text link is too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's almost like when we went to school and we added an adjective to something, right? Some kind of a descriptor that makes something more clear. And in this case, it's really making it more clear to Google.
And is that the example you just gave is an internal link, right? A link from one page on our website to another page on our website. Do we want to do that just for internal text links or external as well?
So that's a great question. So yes, that is for an internal text link from whatever services or product page to our contact page, or potentially a landing page if it's some kind of a special offer, right?
Right.
Now, when you say external text links, are you talking about our text links going elsewhere?
Yes. So a blog post is a perfect example, right? You may have, an external resource that's on another site that you're linking to, right? I typically think about that as an external link.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Just wanted to clarify which way the link was going. I don't typically worry about that quite as much, only because if, let's say, we're partnering on something and I'm highlighting you on the blog, the number one goal, first, it's on a blog, so we don't want it to be too salesy. It's a little bit different than a web page as far as the salesiness of it, but I'll just make it clear where we're sending somebody. So and it's you could put it in there and it would help you with SEO as long as it was something that was within your wheelhouse, or something you wanted to get found for. Kind of drilling down a little bit deeper to that actual blog post itself. Yeah, you're going to want to optimize the text link. This is kind of a separate but tangential and the same. You're going to want to optimize that text link, because if I'm talking about you and let's say I'm highlighting your marketing consulting and how you help people put a plan together. So that when they come to us or when you build a website for them, that everything is organized and the message is strong and clear. Having things like marketing consultant in there. When we direct people to you is totally fine. And I hope I'm answering your question.
No, you are. So it's with text links, you're really focusing on the internal links between pages on the site itself. So do we have another element?
Well, I think we covered all 6, but I've got one that's kind of a bonus.
Got it.
And then that is your meta descriptions.
Okay, got
which
it.
I don't think we talked about.
No, we do not.
Now, Google will swear that they don't count meta descriptions as part of the SEO equation. And no offense to Google, but I say that's baloney. One, it's got to be 156 characters or less. If it's longer than that, you can wind up with an ellipsis most often. And you can get a penalty because it's too long.
Got it.
Plus, if you don't get a penalty and it's too long and Google cuts it off, the most important part of your meta description message might get lost.
Got it.
Okay. I have also tested where if somebody's a local company and we put, something like ice cream shop, Madison, Wisconsin, or New York, New York,
Yeah.
that will help raise their search ranking. Because
Interesting.
yeah, and it's like Google says it doesn't count, but at the very least, we don't want to break any rules with it because it could hurt us.
I also think too, what you put in there may be the differentiator that helps entice somebody to click on your listing rather than somebody else's in the search results.
Exactly. That could be your only chance if someone's reading it.
Right. So it's kind of like your ad copy, right?
Right. That's your first and potentially only chance of engagement.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So again,
Awesome.
and even if you're not worrying too much about how many keywords am I putting in there, sure, you want to mention the service. You might want to mention your region, but it's also important to mention how you're easing somebody's pain.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to recap these to make sure we're all on the same page. So keywords, right? We got to create our list of what keywords are important for us. We've got title tags, heading tags, image names, and alt text for those images. We have on-page copy. We have internal text links on the site. We want to make sure those are optimized. And then our meta description is that bonus. Those are the best ways that we can implement SEO into our website.
Yep. And they're sustainable. We've been using them. I've been using them for over a decade.
Yeah.
It always works.
These are the fundamentals of on-page SEO.
Yep.
Yeah. I love it. Super, super helpful. So let's talk about, you had touched on this a little bit earlier, that freshness factor in a website. I think we want to have it, but we need to be doing it in the right way. How does this freshness factor you talk about play into that? How does it relate to SEO? And so let's dig into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so the freshness factor has to do with a few different things. And I like to lead off by explaining it helps boost what's called your website authority. And that's really what SEO does. That's what adding a good, rich, relevant web page does. And website authority is a score from 0 to 100. We get the score from a company called Moz, M-O-Z, which I'm sure you use. We use it quite often. And the higher the score, the better. So somebody like Amazon or Nike or Adidas, got sneakers on the brain, they'll typically have a score 80, 90 plus, right? Real close to 100. Whereas a smaller business, maybe a localized business, like a local hardware shop that maybe has only 10 or 20 web pages, their score, if it's a good score, might be somewhere between like 20 and 25 or the high teens, right? It's not going to be in the 800, in the 80s. So freshness is one of the criteria that the Google algorithm or algorithms, depending on how you look at it, because it's like this one big monster with all these moving parts.
Yeah.
It's looking for freshness.
And when we talk about freshness, are we talking about new content?
Yeah, we're talking about new content. And that's when we want to run from the person who says we're going to freshen up your static web pages, right?
Yeah.
Your products and your services, your homepage, which begs the question, where do I freshen up my content if Joey's telling me not to do it on my web pages?
Yeah.
Right? It kind of doesn't make sense. And this is where your blog comes into play.
Got it.
Your freshness comes on your blog. And what you're going to want to do is blog at least one time a week. And this can be very daunting to people. I've tested this, and 3 times a week is usually the sweet spot for most businesses. More than that is way too unmanageable in many cases. And it's also, you're kind of pillaging people with too much content.
Yeah.
So, one will increase your freshness factor, that will boost your website authority. And I've seen this. I tested it once on purpose, and I tested it a second time when my wife got sick a few years ago. Unwittingly, I stopped blogging. And I went from like first, second, or third on page 1 for my major keyword phrases to the bottom of page 1 or page 2. And all I did was stop blogging. So it makes a huge difference.
Got it. So the static pages, our product service pages, our homepage, really shouldn't be changing all that much unless there's some type of message change or some type of update we need to make. The freshness factor is coming in with blog content in some way, shape, or form. And I'll just ask you this because some people may go, "Oh my God, I can't stand writing. I'm not going to do it." Are there ways? So like one of the ways that we use, because we do, we're doing this podcast where we've got video, we're putting the video, the audio, and the transcription on a blog post.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a decent way for people to utilize other type forms of content to get that freshness factor on their site?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that is what I call repurposing. And that's fantastic, especially if you're sharing the video on your blog post and the transcription.
Yeah.
Because Google likes video because it knows people like video. And then that transcription, the video, the only thing that Google will see when it crawls that blog post, it'll only see the title of the video. It won't be able to read what's in the video.
Yes.
Which is why that transcription is so important. Equally important is to review the transcription, especially if you're letting YouTube transcribe it.
Yeah.
And you have a New York accent.
Yes.
You could be in trouble. Make sure it actually is transcribed properly. And that's where a little bit of like time involvement comes into play. But yeah, man, you can do video. You can just do a podcast if you don't want to do video, and you can transcribe the podcast. You can repurpose. I have some clients where they'll hand us a webinar that's already on their website, and we'll turn that into 3 blog posts for them. Real long form blog posts, go deep dive.
Yeah.
So repurposing is a wonderful idea. Even if you have a white paper or case studies that you show clients, you can turn those into blog posts.
Yeah.
Other things you can do is you can interview your clients and highlight them on your blog. I do that quite often. Or you can hire somebody if you just totally feel like it's dreadful to write it. Hire somebody competent, not necessarily cheap, because there are people who will work for $10 an hour.
Yeah.
And you get what you pay for, and then sometimes that can backfire.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. This has been awesome. You've shared a ton of really valuable info about how we can integrate SEO into our websites effectively. Do you have any last minute, words of wisdom, guidance you want to leave us with today, Joey?
Yeah, a couple of real high level things that I can share. One is something that's tangential to your website, but also super important to supporting your website, helping boost its SEO, and also maybe getting you found before anybody sees your website in a natural search result, is your Google My Business listing. You want to make sure you have one. And then once you get your website optimized, you want to make sure you're optimizing that Google My Business listing, filling out every single region in the listing. And just like you would on any social media platform, pushing posts with optimized image names through Google My Business. You can post there. Nobody reads it. Nobody cares, but Google likes it.
Yes.
And that will help you wind up toward the top of the page in what's called the 3-pack, where you see the map.
Yeah.
And then you see 3 search results typically. So that's one really good thing to make sure. We do that for every single client we work with, but something that can be easily overlooked by a business owner.
Yep.
The other thing, and we touched upon backlinks kind of going from your website out, backlinks play a really important role in your website authority, but they're really hard to get.
Takes time.
Takes time, and there are a lot of agencies out there that will get them for you very quickly. And very poorly and very black hat style. You got to be careful. So what we advise people to do is use something like what we do is we use something called Bright Local.
Yes.
Yeah. And Bright Local will help you push out maybe 10 or 20. That's it. 10 or 20 new directory listings each month. They're called citations, directory listings, but they're really backlinks from super reputable, high authority websites like Yahoo, Bing, and other sites like that, some small, some large. And that will really, even 10 or 20 a month, will help boost your website authority in ways that you might be surprised.
Got it. So you guys won't do those at once. You do them kind of piecemeal over a period of months.
Yeah, we'll set up the account, we'll optimize the listing, and then we'll push it through the major aggregators, which is a fancy word for like real high level search engines that push stuff to a lot of search engines and directories. And then we'll do 10 or 20 a month until we feel like we've accrued enough for the client. It's very quick to do.
Yeah.
Very low cost. The reason we do so few is because if we wind up doing dozens or hundreds, you could get blacklisted or you can get flagged for being a toxic website.
Gotcha.
And I've seen it happen.
Yeah. So you don't want to do a bunch all at once.
Right.
Okay. Got it. Awesome. Joey, if people need help with SEO, their website, you've shared a ton of great information, but where can they go to learn more about you and what you're doing?
Yeah. People can go to joeydonovangaido.com/overview.
Okay.
Gives you an idea of everything we do. And it's all connected to helping clients get found on Google and helping them convert website visitors into actual customers.
Awesome. So guys, that's joeydonovangaido.com/overview. Guido is Guido. We'll make sure that's in the show notes, but if you're watching video right now, you can see it down at the bottom of the screen. Please reach out to Joey if you like what he's had to say and you need some help. You're hitting roadblocks and all these fun SEO stuff that we talked about. Joey, thank you so much for taking the time, man. I really do appreciate it. Again, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing. If you guys are running into roadblocks with your marketing and you want to get some clarity, head on over to our website at rialtomarketing.com. That's RIALTO marketing.com. Click on the Get a Free Consult button. Be happy to chat with you and give you some ideas of where you should be focusing right now based on where you're at. Till next time, take care.